Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Rough, Tam Cowan and Darren Jackson are with me. Thank you very much to each and every one of you for following us all the way through this lockdown situation. The support we've had across Facebook and YouTube and Twitter has been amazing. So don't forget to follow us on Facebook, share the stream if you can, and if you get a chance, also hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel and you'll get all the unique content that we deliver on PLZ Soccer. So with that in mind, thank you again to you all. Lots to talk about. Sadly, a manager losing his job will be the red hot topic at the top of the programme. Just before we get into the meat and bones of some of the football issues and discuss what the First Minister Nicola Sturgeon had to say today about the weekend's events outside Ibrox and in George Square, I want to mention something, Roughie, which, again, I watched it and I thought it was a brilliant interview with Hayley McQueen. She was on the BBC Breakfast News and she spoke so eloquently about her dad and his predicament now with the onset of dementia. And, of course, she wants to try and highlight the point of head trauma and the dementia that's suffered by many footballers from heading the ball. And she's hoping that there can be a change in the way we approach football for kids, especially heading the ball, maybe even in training for professionals. It's really heartbreaking, first and foremost, for Hayley and the rest of the family to watch their dad just slipping downhill.
It must be horrendous for most families, Peter. You know, it's a horrible disease to see somebody that you love and such a character in Big Gordon. You know, life and soul of the party, on and off the park. So yes, it must be terrible trying to come to terms with that, but we have to do something about it, and I think we are trying at grassroots level. I don't think the kids are heading the ball as much, so it must be the amount of times you're heading the ball throughout your career. And certainly in Gordon's era, he would be heading the ball quite a lot. That was prime, what a centre-half was all about, which is heading the ball out the air. And it's a shame, it really is, and we just hope that him and everybody else who are suffering with this disease can get something out of it, you know, and the longer that they can survive, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what the best resolution out of this is, Darren, now that there is more and more evidence stacking up, certainly the percentages for footballers with dementia late on in life. I don't know what the end game is on this one, how you either come up with a cure or indeed try and limit the amount of heading the ball in the professional game. I think that might be difficult to actually go through with.
Yeah, I mean that is a hard one, Peter, and obviously I'm the furthest thing from a doctor to have a real opinion on this. I think this is heartbreaking. One of my best pals, David Bowman's dad, died of it, and the heartbreaking thing is that I think you lose whoever it is, but it's his dad. You lose him twice because you lose him to dementia and then he dies, so you lose him twice, and it must be heartbreaking. Your parent, your dad not knowing who you are and all that. But going back to what you're speaking about, I mean, football wouldn't be the same if there wasn't heading, Peter, because that's a skill as well. Like David Beckham, one of the best crossers of the ball in ever. Headers. It's just part and parcel of the game. But if you can limit it in training, if you can maybe stop it for kids until they're a certain age, and then you maybe limit it in training. But nowadays, I think it is a different game. It's not the long ball game. Everyone talks about playing possession and keeping possession, and it's not big muscly strikers that you just throw the ball up and play off him nowadays. So I think the game's changed. And I think that will help. But anything we can do, Peter, I think we need to try and do as much as we can because it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, Hugh Scott has mentioned on Facebook that he lost his mum to vascular dementia. It's heartbreaking to watch someone go through it. You lose a part of them every day. Yeah, I mean, this is dementia in many forms right across from your mum and your dad, as Hugh mentioned there, at my mother-in-law in a similar situation. It is heartbreaking because you can still see the shell of the person that you loved, Tam, but they're no longer there.
Yeah, and everybody's had to deal with it, Peter. Everybody's got a favourite auntie. Mine was Auntie Agnes, and that's the way she went as well. And Darren's absolutely right about losing somebody like that twice. I was almost in tears reading about a Scottish broadcasting colleague, Peter, last week, Alison Walker, who's had a terrible time of it because of COVID-19. She'd gone a full year without seeing her mum and dad, who are in a home together, both with dementia. Absolutely heartbreaking stuff. And just with the nature of the virus, by the time she did get in to see the two of them, neither of them actually knew who she was. So it's a horrible condition. And if there is anything that football can do, I think Darren touched on something quite interesting there. It maybe even the way the game seems to be progressing naturally, the way that football seems to be played these days. You don't tend to see, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, as many dominating centre halves at club or international level guys, indeed like Gordon McQueen, who would just, first and foremost in your head, you would think of these big guys up heading the ball. Or at the other end of the park, Peter, if I asked you, where's the Andy Gray of nowadays? Where's the Joe Jordan? Where's the Derek Johnston? These guys who get the balls put into the box and they were immediately in there with the head. Andy Gray famously, very dangerously in with the head, sometimes when the ball was about 2 or 3 yards off the deck. You don't tend to see that as much in football, Peter, unless I'm very, very much mistaken. So maybe the way the game is progressing, as Dan was saying about clubs continually trying to play the ball on the deck, maybe that's a start. Maybe it's a start. And of course, if you go back, I don't know if this was as relevant in Gordon McQueen's day, but certainly if you go further back to older players and guys like Billy McNeil, they famously always talk about just the size and the weight of the balls that they did play with, which I imagine couldn't have been a great help either. So at least those days will never come back in terms of the sport and equipment.
Yeah, well done to Hayley McQueen for fighting the fight on it. I did pass on best wishes from yourself, Roughie, because of course you played with Gordon, passed on her best wishes to Hayley this morning, and I think she responded, really appreciative of the fact that we are backing her and so many other people are backing her. So well done to Hayley. What result we get out of it, only time will tell. But you should never give up the fight on it. Okay, from that sad topic to, it's sad for Derek McInnes because he's been sacked by Aberdeen. Dave Cormack has decided that one win in the last 9, enough is enough. Was it the right time to go, Darren?
It's a hard one. I've said on the show before, Peter, I'd never say a manager deserves a sack because I've been in that position and I know Doc very well. I know obviously Big Marsh is up there, and I know Dale not as well, and I know they work very hard. I always thought this year would be a hard one, Peter, because of the pandemic, because of the money the chairman keeps on saying that Aberdeen have lost. Now I think Derek and Doc and that are on good salaries, and just to cut that down, that might play a part in it. But 1 win in 9 is not good enough for Aberdeen. I mean, they've done it. People say, have they done a good job? I think they have done a good job, but deep down, I think they'll both possibly be disappointed that they maybe never won another trophy. Probably got to more finals. They got in the league. They got the job when maybe Rangers, Hibs and Hearts weren't in the league, but they constantly stayed second, Peter, and they were in Europe every year. So I think they'll walk away and think, yes, we did do a good job, but maybe deep down they probably would have wanted another cup there.
Yeah, I actually I look at the whole situation, and am I being too harsh on this? I thought Derek should have got out a couple of years ago, Roughie. I spoke to him at the PFA Player of the Year Awards, and I thought there was a time there where they'd hit the ceiling where there was no way they could achieve anything else. My only criticism is I thought Aberdeen should have won the league at least once in the Ronnie Deila era, because that team was murder, and Aberdeen had the chance to have a real go at them and win it, and they blew it.
Yeah, I think possibly 2 years ago, he maybe have thought of that. But what was on the horizon for Aberdeen at that time was a brand new stadium, a brand new training ground. The prospects of that looked really exciting. So I think Derek would have been saying to himself, I've been here a wee while here, I may as well see this out and get the benefits of the new regime. I just think this is an owner thing. This is an owner who's come in with his own ideas, his American ideas, whether you like them or not. I think this guy just wants his own man in there, and we'll have to wait and see who that is, because I thought Derek had enough credit in the bank to see him through this wee run, maybe another year. I mean, I don't know what the owner's looking for. Third in the league is the best they can be. Good cup runs. He's had good cup runs, and the fans have enjoyed that. So for me, it's all about the manager stamping, the owner stamping his authority and coming in and saying, look, this is the kind of backroom staff I want, or this is the kind of man I want. I wouldn't be surprised if it is somebody from America. This guy's come up with a lot of ideas, like playing football at 7:30 on a Friday night and an 18-team league and everything. So he's got his own ideas on how we should be doing our football here in Scotland. So it'll be really interesting to see who he identifies.
Yeah, our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi looks back over McInnes' time in charge.
Derek McInnes has left Aberdeen by mutual consent after 8 years in charge. Let's take a look back at his time at the club. When the former St Johnstone and Bristol City manager took over at Pittodrie, they'd finished in the bottom half 4 seasons in a row. A year on, he delivered their first piece of silverware in 19 years, the 2014 League Cup, thanks to a penalty shootout victory over Inverness. More success followed, with McInnes leading the Dons to 4 consecutive second-place finishes and taking his side into the Europa League every campaign, always just missing out on the crucial playoff fixture. There were 8 more Cup semi-finals, including 2017, when they were beaten in both showpiece events by Brendan Rodgers' invincible Celtic. 5 years in, McInnes had transformed the club from a bottom-half side to comfortably the most consistent outside of Glasgow. However, in the last few seasons, the style of football regressed, as had the results, with the Dons set for a 4th-place finish for a 3rd year in a row this campaign. As the pressure from fans mounted after a run of 1 win in 9 games with just 1 goal scored in that spell, McInnes and the club decided it was time to part ways. As he exits the North East, his record stands at 202 wins in 378 games, an impressive 53% win ratio. Many Dons fans feel it was the right decision, but in years to come, McInnes will be remembered as Aberdeen's best manager since the great Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah, it's a long time, Tam. I mean, some Aberdeen fans view the last couple of years he was too overly cautious. When you consider some of the players he had, I can see where they're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, but the bottom line is, Peter, I mean, I know Derek as well, and I like Derek, but I, first and foremost, I'm a football fan, and I would need to kind of take a wee side here with Aberdeen fans who basically have not been served up a very tasty product for the last wee bit, and they're currently in a run of 1 goal in 9 games, which is hard enough to watch when you're actually sitting at the stadium. But when you're lying on the couch with the game on your iPad, then that is absolutely torturous. So, I think Derek would maybe be the first to admit that the football hadn't been great in recent times. But I tend to agree with you in 2 points, Peter. The glass ceiling thing. I mean, what else could Aberdeen really do? We're now in a position where Rangers have come from nowhere. They seem super strong. They've won that league in a hat canter by 20 points. And you would need to therefore imagine that Celtic are now going to try and come back. And it looks increasingly like the classic 2-horse race. Aberdeen, it would appear to me, have just got to try and get a decent cup run and try to get into Europe every season. But the actual prospect of silverware in the trophy cabinet, as things stand just now, just seems highly, highly unlikely. So I don't think it's such a bad time for Derek to go. And, in these tough times of COVID, the bottom line is that he goes with a year's plus money as well, and he skyrockets. So, I don't think Derek can be too down about this.
Yeah, and as far as Dave Cormack is concerned, I mean, with Stuart Milne, Derek was rock solid. They were very, very close. Dave Cormack released a statement on the departure of Derek McInnes during his time in charge. Derek raised the bar and delivered a level of consistency not seen at the club for many years, qualifying for Europe and delivering a League Cup win in 2013-14. Clearly, results since the turn of the year have been disappointing and frustrating for everyone. Derek and I reviewed where we were and agreed that this was the right time for him to step down. The club now has the opportunity to appoint a new manager ahead of the new season where, with a number of players out of contract, we have work to do to build a competitive squad. Over the remaining 6 league games, an interim team led by Paul Sheeran and supported by Barry Robson and Neil Simpson will strive to deliver European football with a third-placed finish. So that's the statement from Dave Cormack. As far as the runners and riders replacing Derek McInnes, here are the latest candidates, the odds on them. Stephen Glass, that we mentioned last night, Enzo Maresca, Paul Sheeran at 5-1. A man you know well, Tam, Stephen Robinson in there being quoted, as well as Craig Levine and Paul Lambert. But I think the main man who's the favourite for it, Roughie, and you alluded to it there, and we mentioned it yesterday very early on, Stephen Glass, red-hot favourites, managing at the moment Atlanta 2 in America. So maybe an old boy coming back is what they're looking for, and there might be that connection, of course, Roughie, with Dave Cormack there.
Yeah, well, I think obviously the Dave Cormack being an American, he'll know the scene over there. I'm sure he'll know most of the technical coaches over there who he'll make a phone call and he'll say, is there anybody that you can recommend for this post? And Stephen Glass's name will be on that. I'm sure there'll be lots of other names on it as well. I mean, you've left out Paul Hartley. You know, I think Paul Hartley's done a tremendous job at some of the clubs he was at, you know, and he's got a connection. But I think it's all about the owner, Peter. It's what way the owner thinks they're going to take the club and what direction, and that'll determine who the manager is.
Yeah, I never left Paul Hartley out, Roughie. I just gave you the odds on the front runners. he might be in with a shout. Who knows? You know, I mean, at the end of the day, there's just a bunch of names that people throw out there. They get a fiver on it. Some people lose money. I mean, Ian Noble, who's a big Aberdeen fan, says, you know, Craig Levine, not a chance. I mean, I've heard all sorts of names thrown into the mix with regards to this job, but nevertheless, Darren, it's a good job. It's a great club. They've got a structure there for the training facility. They may well stay at Pittodrie once it all eventually, gets back to some kind of normality.
Yeah, listen, I don't know the ins and outs, but I think the stadium's probably been knocked back maybe a year or so because of the pandemic. But they've got a wonderful training ground. Peter, it's one team in the city. It's a great job, fantastic job to get, and everyone's putting 2 and 2 together. Obviously, with the connection with the chairman, with Stephen Glass, and it probably could. I think it probably will be Stephen Glass, but I think Tam will admit I'm a big Stephen Robinson fan, and it depends what way they want to go down with budgets and all that. Do they want to cut the budget? And you saw how well Stephen did at Motherwell with bringing players up from down south. So I'm a big fan of Stephen. So I think he should be. I mean, he should be in the reckoning.
Okay.
The intriguing thing about that, Peter, but yeah, because I agree with Darren, he's saying how well Stephen Robinson worked with very, very little money. Absolutely right, bang on the money. So the thing that then intrigues me, what if Aberdeen decided to go the other way and get a bit extra investment? And it's quite intriguing, and maybe one that the Aberdeen fans should ponder, that what Stevie Robinson would be like with a fair bit of money. Maybe it'd be the next big thing. We do not know. We sadly never get the opportunity to spend at Motherwell. But I'll tell you what, even when you just put up that board there, Peter, with some of the runners and riders, something about Stephen Robinson at Pittodrie, it just seems to me a nice fit, you know. So I think that'd be worth a tenner of my money.
Yeah, well, we wait to find out. Sometimes the ideal candidate in management is not necessarily the one that gets it, because there's an old pals act, or there's a connection from across the sea. Who knows? Only time will tell. Listen, if that was the red hot topic as far as management is concerned, then this topic has been at the forefront of so many. This is, of course, the conduct of the Rangers fans on Saturday and Sunday, which has been talked about at the Scottish Parliament as well, and everybody's just laying into it now. The SFA and the SPFL have called an urgent video conference after Sunday's lockdown. John Swinney said nothing would be ruled out when asked if the rest of the season could now be cancelled. Now, I have a feeling that's just been a little bit sensationalist on it, to be honest with you. Police Scotland have condemned Rangers' lack of support despite repeated requests. The police said Rangers didn't take their responsibilities towards safety seriously. And I think Nicola Sturgeon released a statement regarding this whole issue. I share the anger and despair that I'm sure the majority of football fans felt at the weekend, with crowds of supporters flagrantly breaching rules that the rest of us are following every day at great personal cost. The behaviour at the weekend was disgraceful and selfish. It's natural some of the anger people feel is directed towards the government and the police. All of us must reflect on what more could have been done. We will be having discussions this week with the football authorities and certain football clubs who, in my view, need to show much more leadership. I really don't care about the colour of the shirt. My comments on these matters are in no way partisan. And she goes on to say, I said some harsh things about Celtic at the start of the year, and in this case, Rangers Football Club could have done more to help avoid this situation arising at the weekend. The fact is, elite sport is being allowed to continue just now so that fans, deprived of so much else in life, can continue to watch and support their teams. It would be deeply unfair if a minority spoil that for the majority, and I very much hope that will not be the case. We cannot simply turn a blind eye, and we won't. We will report back in due course, and certainly ahead of the Old Firm match, which is scheduled for the 21st of March. Now, Roughie, the nature of things at the moment is Nicola Sturgeon has to constantly talk about the fact that she's not in any way partisan, because quite simply, what happens here when any of them, either half of the Old Firm especially, are criticised for wrongdoing of some supporters, once they're actually blatantly guilty of something, there's a mob who just literally descend on everybody and make their lives misery. And I think that's the nature of our country at the moment. There's a minority who are a mob who just basically clamour over everybody who has a go at them for wrongdoing. This one is wrongdoing, and there have been constant instances that football has been guilty of it all the way since the start of this lockdown. And I just wonder if the Old Firm game might be the final straw on this one, if there is indeed people, gathering in their thousands, and there's been the Green Brigade up at one of the games we were at Celtic Park, and that there could be Rangers fans wanting to get down there to celebrate the title win.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest worry for everybody, and we know what will happen if that does happen. It'll end up in something we all don't want to see. So we do have to act stronger than what we have done, and try and prevent this. But I mean, Rangers are saying they did everything in their power. They've told the fans not to do this and not to do that. But as you say, there's fans out there who just don't listen. I don't think Rangers could have done anything about George Square. I think that's just the mob that you're talking about. We're going to turn up whenever. And that's the way in the world just now. People are not listening to, the guidelines of what it is. And the majority of the people who were there didn't even have masks on. That was an alarming thing as well, but I think the clubs are on a hiding to nothing here. I think that they're doing everything in their power, to just make sure nothing like this happens. And I don't know what you can say, because I don't think these people are listening. I just don't think they're listening at all. And, I just don't know where we're all going to end up with this.
Yeah, the other aspect of this, which is a worry, Tam, is Saturday and Sunday. A lot of people are saying, and I wonder sometimes myself, just arrest the people. They're breaking the law. But there is a safety issue, and there's a safety issue for the police as well, because you can't suddenly put 3,000-4,000 fans in the back of a meat wagon and then go and charge them. It's an impossibility, and you could actually start a riot, and that puts police lives in jeopardy.
Absolutely. The risk of us all going round in circles with this, Peter, I personally think that the answer could stand with Steven Gerrard, the Rangers manager. There is a man who, in the eyes of every Rangers fan on the planet now, can do no wrong. If he asked the Rangers fans to jump into the Clyde, they would do it. They hang on his every word, Peter. I would maybe like to see Steven Gerrard come out and saying, look, guys, everything that happened over the weekend there has been well documented, and what we've hopefully still got coming as well as a trophy presentation. They've still not got the Premiership trophy. We've got what could be a famous victory at Celtic Park. We're in the last 16 of Europe as of Thursday night. You know, what if they get a bit of European glory, their first in 50 years? It's one thing saying they get their first title in 10 years. How would the fans who were delirious at the weekend, what will they be like if they get their first European trophy in nearly 50 years? And then, of course, you've got the Scottish Cup as well. So there's a lot of biggies coming up here, which is the potential for other celebrations. I think Steven Gerrard, and I tend to think by and large it shouldn't be down to the manager to get involved in stuff like this, but in this case I would make an exception just with the relationship that he's got with the fans and how the fans look towards him. Get him out there and get Steven Gerrard to urge the fans. If you're going to celebrate for whatever else we've got to celebrate for now to the end of the season, please do it at home. Keep yourself safe, keep everybody else safe, and give the club a break.
Yeah, absolutely. And I must mention as well, I mean, there are a lot of Rangers fans who are absolutely sickened by the supporters who turned up. And there are a lot of really good, decent Rangers fans who've offered to pay for the carnage in George Square. Some benches, memorial benches, were destroyed when the thousands of fans congregated in there. So, you know, there are Rangers fans out there who are just looking on aghast at what has happened and clearly disgusted with the behaviour and clearly want to try and rectify it. And I think that's got to be mentioned in this situation because, you know, it's not about everybody piling in on Rangers with this incident over Saturday and Sunday. There are Rangers fans who are well delighted at winning the league, but quite happy to stay in their house and wait till it's safe to get out under the instruction of the government. News breaking here, SFA have issued a notice of complaint against Calvin Bassey, Brian Kinnear, Dapo Mabudi, Nathan Patterson, Bongani Zungu of Rangers for the alleged COVID breaches. That principal hearing date is Thursday, 25th of March, 2021. So that's the SFA finally getting round to handing out some punishment, Roughie, for the breach of rules and those players turning up at a party.
Didn't know when it was going to come. I'm sure the players would know it was coming as well. It has to be the same sentence as the other two got, you know, and that's the way it will be. And they'll just have to get on with it. You know, I feel sorry for the young fullback, the young Rangers fullback who had a lot in front of him this season. And that'll be a lesson to him as well, you know, that what he's going to miss from now to the end of the season. But no, I think it's just a given. You know, what they'll get. I don't think that you can talk your way out of this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, we missed the first couple of words that you used there, Roughie, because our producer obviously had just muted you there because he didn't really want to hear your wife loading the dishwasher and making sure all the plates are clean inside the house. It's a 4-week run now, Roughie. Everybody is hanging on. If you're not drinking with ice, you've got people in the background. It's madness at your house. It's incredible.
Yes, and I don't understand why I think it's becoming deliberate now. It's 4 o'clock every day. If it's no drilling a hole in the wall somewhere or as you say, cooking or whatever, you know, it's just getting ridiculous. Yeah. But I mean, can't trade her in?
Absolutely.
You know, so I'll just have to hold it, you know.
You can't trade her in because the last thing you have to realise is you're punching well above your weight with her. Although I started to really fear Tam when he mentioned that there was a stag out in his front garden one day, and I thought, if I hear just a single gunshot wound, the programme's dead and buried.
Aye, because that's another. I noticed in Ali McCoist's social media, he's got some lovely deer, stags, whatever the other is, back garden. They've become a bit of a COVID star in their own right. Talking and see in terms of happier times than that, Peter. I mean, when you're talking about the whole Rangers situation, another idea that I was thinking, because Callum Davidson has said how that the St Johnstone players and hopefully the fans, they'll be able to drink Perth dry when the COVID regulations allow it, and they can go out to the pubs and the clubs and all that. I wonder even if Rangers could do something similar there and say, you know what, guys, look, no more celebrations, no more down at the stadium, no more George Square out in the streets. And when all this is over, we're even going to have a week of parties at Ibrox when we can get the fans in. We'll somehow come to an arrangement that we can get drink there for them. We can celebrate properly, But if you want your tickets for these events, please, you've just got to behave in the interim period. It's a very, very hard thing, Peter. I as a football fan myself, I can't imagine what Rangers fans must have been going through there at the weekend to have come from where they were 10 years ago to then clinch the league in March the 7th, 20 points clear of their oldest rival, so a lot of folk were tapping for 20 in a row. I can absolutely understand how they were feeling, how delirious they were, but we've just all got to play by the rules. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just moving on to another topic. Of course, Dave King has been speaking over the last 24 hours. His delight, I think he opened a bottle of 1872, could have been wine, could have been whiskey, to celebrate. Quite an emotional time for him. He came in. For some people, they were wondering whether he was the right man, but he stood by Rangers and he had a plan in place, and he feels vindicated in the recruitment, Darren, of Steven Gerrard. And who can blame him for actually just revelling in what has unfolded?
Well, of course, Peter. A chairman puts all his eggs in a basket and picks a manager out, an untried manager, but huge name in world football. And brings all the staff up and all that. And obviously, listen, every member of staff plays his own part. I think Michael Beale has played a huge part, Peter, in all this. But he backed him, and even after 2 years, they hadn't won anything. But he still backed him. And I think, to be fair to Steven, he came in at a time where they still had championship players in the squad, Peter, and they didn't have a strong enough squad. And even going into the last season, when they got the result on the 29th of December last year, and then they just went, they didn't have a big enough squad. Where this year, when he's changed the team, they've still looked stronger. And it's all about, it's all about recruitment. And people will say, when you're winning, there's players probably in there that haven't done as well as they probably hoped, but as a squad, they've done really well. Under Brendan, you look at Brendan, some signings that never worked, Peter. Managers don't buy bad players. They just play. They get players that sometimes don't work. So the recruitment's worked, and he stuck by him, and he'll be over the moon with the success they've had this season.
Yeah, of course.
And I'll tell you what,
Steven,
Peter, that was very flash of Dave King with the 1872 bottle of wine. I bought a bottle in Morrison's all night for $11.99, and I thought I was doing well. So good on him.
Yeah, 1872. I'm not quite sure what the VAT is in South Africa, but nevertheless, he was happy because, of course, when you look at the stats on Steven Gerrard, it is impressive.
When Steven Gerrard was appointed Rangers manager, he knew he'd be judged on whether he could stop Celtic's bid for 10 in a row. He has succeeded this season, but how did he turn the tide in his first ever job? Well, in his first 2 months at the club, Gerrard had led them through 4 rounds of Europa League qualifying, a feat he would repeat in his next 2 seasons. He also delivered the Gers the first Old Firm victory in 6 years when Ryan Jack scored the only goal at Ibrox in December 2018. However, it was not all plain sailing. Rangers finished 3rd in the Europa League group stage, whilst Aberdeen put them out of both cups and Celtic won the league by 9 points. Every summer, key players who have excelled were recruited by Gerrard. Veterans Alan McGregor and Stephen Davis have provided an experienced core to the side, with Connor Goldson and Scott Arfield also being brought up from down south, whilst Borna Barisic arrived from his native Croatia. Joe Rebo, Ryan Kent, Glenn Kamara and Yanis Hadji all present signings who are purchased to dominate now, but also have big future sell-on fees. Last campaign, the Ibrox side improved again. They came out of their Europa League group and reached the last 16, famously beating Porto and Braga along the way. Cup glory eluded them again, but the Old Firm Betfred Cup final was utterly dominated by the blue team despite their runners-up medals. This fired them on to their first one at Parkhead in 8 years, a month later. A poor January cost them the title in the end, with Celtic 8 points clear as the virus halted the season. But this year, Gerrard moved them up another gear. He's dealt with discipline issues, COVID rule breakers, and seen one of the greatest collective defensive performances the country's ever seen, with just 9 conceded so far. The Gers have lost just 1 game in all competitions and topped their Europa League group ahead of Benfica, before putting 9 past Antwerp in the last 32. They've won every game at Ibrox, beaten Celtic twice without conceding a goal, and have been crowned champions at the earliest date in over 100 years. In just 160 games at the helm, Gerrard has guided them to 106 victories, proving that he has the vision and personality to deliver success back to this huge club. After being officially confirmed as title winners for a 55th time, Gerrard promised there is much more to come from him and his players, and at this rate, who would doubt him?
Yeah, Steven Gerrard, impressive record. I noticed Dave King also saying, Roughie, that he reckons it's time this season coming that Celtic spend a bit of money, make sure that they can get a bit of success in Europe as well. They need Celtic and Rangers boosting that coefficient.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that. I think Celtic have been saying it for the last 9 years that other clubs need to help with the coefficient. Now, Rangers are in there doing their bit. You know, we look at Aberdeen and we look at Hibs, who aren't really helping much in that aspect. But no, I think we all know we want 2 strong teams. It always makes it exciting when there's not much between the two of them. It's not much fun for either one when the other team's running away with it. So yeah, I'm sure we'll just have to wait, see what Celtic are going to do. We're all talking about, you know, what they are going to do. But I'm sure the Celtic supporters will be wanting to know as soon as possible what they're going to do to turn this round.
Yeah, I just wonder at this point, you know, there's all that mad speculation, Tam, because Joachim Löw is 15 years. The Germany manager is now going to stand down after this summer's tournament. Everybody's putting 2 and 2 together. Löw out the door, Klopp in the door, Gerrard on the way to Liverpool. You know, 2 and 2 usually makes 5 in football. It goes mental at one point.
Yeah, and what would scare me, Peter, if I was a Rangers fan, is that I think it was generally perceived maybe last year that if Steven Gerrard did ever leave Rangers en route to Liverpool, it would maybe be via another club, maybe a Championship club or maybe a lower level Premier League club in England. But, you know, the inroads that he's made, the swing, if you like, with Celtic in terms of points, from last season, I think would suggest that he is the real deal. And it strikes me that Liverpool wouldn't exactly be taking too big a chance if they wanted to offer the job to him any time now. And you know what, if I was a Rangers fan as well, I think, you know, I've got a lot of pals even that I texted over the past few days who are Rangers fans, and we started a wee bit of conversation about it. They'd maybe take it as a wee bit an achievement of everything that's happened at Rangers if Liverpool did come in for him the now. And I think there'd be, certainly the guys I spoke to were realistic enough to know that, you know, if he keeps progressing at the rate he's going, that of course is where he's going to end up. He's a Liverpool man through and through. He said all the right stuff about Rangers as far as the fans at Ibrox are concerned, but definitely whether it's you know, next season or a couple of years' time, that of course is where he's going to end up. But incidentally, Peter, top trolling there from Dave King, I thought, just to basically casually tell Celtic to, you know, spend some money. We don't want you to be falling too far behind for the good of Scottish football. That was I bet he'd a smile in his dish when he sent out that quote to the media.
Absolutely, it's a great noise off, isn't it? All these.
But can I just reaffirm, Peter? I genuinely, even looking at a package there with Steven Gerrard, I'm delighted to say nobody will ever pick me up on this. When he did come in, I thought it was a good booking. There was quite a few notable people in the media that thought, what are Rangers even thinking about here? This guy's a rookie. But wow, what a rookie. Every manager's got to start somewhere. And if you're starting in the position that he was in as one of the top international players of his generation. That's how I thought he was going to get off to a flyer. It was very, very difficult to start against Rangers, the way the Scottish football was then. But, you know, he's like a godlike figure now at Ibrox, and that's why I would reiterate, Peter, I think if Steven Gerrard came out with a message for the Rangers fans in terms of all the COVID nonsense, I do think they would listen. I mean, Stuart Robertson could come out with a statement, Douglas Park, any other member of the board can come out, but club statements like that, I think fans in general terms take scant regard of them. But if Steven Gerrard, the man who can do no wrong, came out and pleaded with them, guys, come on, you know, we can have our parties later, but just calm the jets, I think they would listen to him.
Darren, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen Klopp's press conference, but he's denied he'll go to Germany in the summer. So it's not to say he will not leave Liverpool, but he's turned around and said he will not be Germany manager after the summer.
Yeah, just a quick one, Tam. I meant to ask you. In the last couple of weeks, you mentioned that you were really, really worried about Motherwell and their predicament. Looks as if they've steadied the ship. I don't think there'll be any problems in relegation now, do you?
Yep, I still won't be counting any chickens, Peter, but just before we came on air, I was chatting to Darren about it, and I think, actually, in a strange way, my pals always jar me for this. I've always said that as long as I knew we would escape and be safe, I don't mind a wee relegation battle, just for a bit of excitement. But I reckon now we're going to be in no man's land because I think we'll be up the top end, if you like, of the bottom six. We're 10 points clear of the bottom spot. With other clubs cutting each other's throats, etc. I think we're going to be safe. And that's why I was almost doing cartwheels last week, Peter, when it was announced that it appears the Scottish Cup is going to go ahead as scheduled this season, because that at least does give us something else to play for this season. Other than that, then it would have been a bit of a dead rubber, I'm afraid. But I think we're safe. Bring on the Scottish Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, down south, I think we always like to mention Roughie, Davy Moyes. Again, last night might not have been the best performance. I mean, according to the manager, David Moyes, they beat Leeds by 2-0, but he didn't think it was great.
I think the biggest step I could tell you is that the players are really disappointed with how they played tonight. So that tells you a lot about it as well, that we didn't feel as if we reached the standards that we've set most of the season. But good sign that they're all on board with that, and they recognise that it felt as if we had 3 weeks off instead of 10 days off tonight. We just didn't seem to get to the start of the game quickly enough.
It's amazing, Roughie, that he's even got them in battling away for a Champions League place.
Yeah, it's amazing he's still there with the owners that they've got there who don't show any loyalty at all to any managers they have. But they have no option now. Davies, turned that team into quite solid. They're really positive in everything they do. They play good attacking football. He's got them where they are. He doesn't want to get carried away about Champions League football. I really hope he does get there. That would be fantastic. But the biggest thing of the lot is they're talking about giving him a contract. I'd get that contract signed as quick as possible and make sure it's like 4 and 5 years on it. Because I think he deserves it. I think he's proved a lot of people wrong from the beginning of the season, where they thought they were going to be one of the ones that were going to get relegated. So, well done to Davy, and I hope it continues.
Well, I think as you can take from that comment that Roughie is not being hired, Darren, for the West Ham end of season Player of the Year awards. There are certain times when Roughie's really hard hitting, and that tells me that he's not going to be speaking at their dinner. You can always tell, Darren. It's a surefire sign.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Peter, Moyes has done great. Moyes has done brilliant. But you can go on a winning run like you can go on a losing run, Peter. I mean, you can just get yourself in a hole going on a losing run. But it's like Sheffield United last year. They could do nothing wrong. Results went for them. But fair play to them. And it shows you last night when they were poor. They weren't poor. Leeds were very good. Leeds were all over them, possession-wise and all that. And it just shows you when things are going for you that the keeper saves the penalty and the rebound goes obviously far enough to Lingard to score. But Leeds scored just before that, and the boys' fingernails offside. And that's wee things that go for you when you're winning games. But take nothing away from their performances and their results. They've been absolutely first class.
Thank God, Tam, they're going to change that rule on the offside if Arsene Wenger gets his way at UEFA level. I mean, it's really annoying. I mean, can you imagine that up here? If if your toes offside, we're going mental.
No, the most annoying thing up here by a country mile, and I think I saw it in the Dundee United Celtic game again on Sunday, when the ball gets played through to a player, it was a Dundee United man out in the right wing, and you're thinking, oh, he might actually be onside here, and they wait and they wait and they wait until the player actually makes contact with the ball, and only then does the flag go up. You know, it is absolutely infuriating. You think, we know he's offside. The linesman knows he's just get the flag up right away and get on with it. I hate that. Absolutely hate that. But I'll tell you, MD up here, Peter, who still thinks we're going to have VAR when you look at the finances of Scottish football right just now, particularly after the walloping we have taken throughout COVID, with the turnstiles no clicking. They must be in cloud cuckoo land. Can't see it happening anytime soon. But as I always say, Peter, if a game is live on the telly, use the technology we have at our disposal. If that means that the fourth official, the linesman, the referee himself, runs over to the sidelines and has a look at the monitor that's been set up there by Sky Sports, by the BBC, by BT Sports, Premier Sports, whatever it is, if you have the technology, use it. Use it while it's there. Simple as that. But I can't see VAR for a long time in Scotland.
Absolutely. I mean, Roughie, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here, but knowing you as I do and myself, even at my fittest, I probably, if I thought I was offside, I'd probably not continue the run anyway. I'd just probably stop and say, I think I'm offside there. I'm not going to run for that. Anyway, I might be lumping you in on something that's unfair. Champions League football tonight. I mean, occasionally we get Tam to watch it, but here's what's offered tonight and tomorrow. Borussia Dortmund against Seville, Juventus, Porto, Liverpool, Leipzig and PSG against Barcelona. I have to say, Roughie, I don't think we're going to get a role reversal of Barcelona tomorrow night. I think it's fair to say the route.
Well, let's not hope. I put all my eggs in one basket and tweeted far too early the last time. But no, I think comfortable. I think they're looking good just now. Barcelona not performing the way that we expect them to perform. I think the big one for me, everybody will be looking at is the Liverpool-Leipzig, obviously 2-0 up. If they weren't to see this one out, I'm sure there would be a lot of people got something to say. But no, I think at home they'll just sneak out of here. But it's going to be a really nervous night tonight if they get a goal.
Yeah, sack the manager is what Roughie's suggesting there for Klopp. That would really be the most amazing thing that ever happened in football if they sacked him, to be perfectly honest with you. Of course, that's what's on offer in the Champions League. Tam, will you even venture onto it tonight or tomorrow? Because we're running out of box sets.
No, I watched Barcelona PSG the other week there. Two top teams, and you can't beat your man Mbappe. But no, I think that could be interesting. You would watch that, hoping obviously at Barcelona get a wee goal within the first 5 minutes, and then you never know. You might get a wee bit of excitement. But undoubtedly, my stance in this, Peter, I need a Scottish team in Europe. So all eyes for me are just on Thursday night. Slavia Prague against Rangers at 5:55 p.m. and I'll be on the sofa for that.
Do you think they can win it?
Don't see why not. They've got I don't know. I mean, you get so many half-wits that will start bumping their gums about Slavia Prague without even being able to name a single player in their team. I know nothing.
No,
of,
I meant
Slavia
win
Prague,
the tournament.
but I'll win the tournament. Don't see why not. When that draw was made for the last 16, just again chatting with a couple of my pals who support Rangers the other night, as I said earlier, and I brought up the thought about were you happy with Slavia Prague, or in the last 16 would you have looked for one of the English teams for the wee bit of glamour? Now I know with some of the English teams you might have had just as much chance of going through, but they were quietly confident, even to the point of saying, well, maybe let's keep one of them for the semis. But you couldn't rule anything out with Rangers this season. Watching them in Europe, it's an incredible run they've been on, and the only disappointment for me, Peter, because I mentioned it in last week's show, I said it in last week's show, that Motherwell and Callum Lang had been the only player to score domestically against Rangers at Ibrox this season. But again, as was pointed out by one of my blue nose pals the other night, they've actually conceded 2 at Ibrox this season. Have you got a Scooby who the other scorer was, at the risk of turning this into a quiz?
Oh, there's a good question. The only other player in Europe and domestically?
No. Just in league games, domestic Scottish Premiership at home, they've only conceded, which is remarkable, 2 goals. One of them was Motherwell. I thought they'd only conceded 1, but apparently there's another. So well done to whoever that was.
Yeah, I've got a gut feeling it might have been a St Mirren player. I might be wrong, but I'll have a look. Somebody will remind me up here. Hugh Scott says it might be Mark McNulty. But nevertheless, it's a fantastic record. Just out of curiosity, Darren, don't worry about it when Tam mentions that he's got these Rangers fans that he speaks to. These are people that go to the Electric Bar in Motherwell, and they all sit there and they have a wee natter and all that. And they're all wee sweetie wives. I avoid it like the plague. I haven't been in the Electric Bar, Roughie, since I was 16, having a drink with all my schoolmates. Peter goes to the St Paulie's Tavern in Kirkbride. Better to be safe than sorry.
Twinned with beards.
Brilliant.
No, incidentally, Peter, well. I think it was well done to, is it Hugh Scott? You said the gentleman's name is. Well done. Yeah. I think it was. That rings a bell. I think it was Mark McNulty. So I think it was only Mark McNulty and Callum Lang who have scored domestically at Ibrox this season, which does suggest you'd need to think, we could ask Darren Jackson certainly, but you'd need to think it's got to be then McGregor or Tavernier, 2 defensive players, who one of those is surely a certainty for Player of the Year. Who would you go for, Darren?
Yeah.
Probably Edward.
What? It's like, what?
A leopard can't change its spots.
Well, he'll not be going to the Electric Bar anytime soon, will he?
You're right. Listen, you could probably pick four of the back 5 who have played all season: McGregor, Golson, Barisic, and Tavernier. But and I'm not saying, I think he scored 12 goals or something, and a load of penalties. The penalties don't make you a great player; it makes you a great penalty taker. But he's had a great season, Tavernier, and I would probably think he's in the running to be the favourite for Player of the Year.
Roughie, Tavernier for you as well, eh?
I thought James Forrest had a good, first game back. He looked a bit exciting. But apart from him, I'd probably give it to Tavernier.
Yeah, absolutely. You two Muppets are doing my head in. Anyway, apart from anything else, just out of curiosity, I think we started talking about it, we'll finish talking about it. The big question now, I think, Darren, that everybody's waiting on is when the government actually has to talk to Celtic and Rangers representatives to make sure that the right message goes out at the right time to both sets of fans to avoid any area around Celtic Park. I am almost certain there will be a ring of steel with the police around that area to make sure nobody gets anywhere near it on the 21st of March.
I would think 100%, Peter. There's talk about it already. So I think they're going to have to shut the whole place off, the roads and everything. So they definitely can't get near it. And after what's happened at the weekend, it's just, so serious that they cannot let both sets, never mind just one set being there, they cannot let both sets being there, and I'm sure there'll be a massive police presence.
Yeah, absolutely. Roughie, just on that point, I think if there is indeed anybody turning up and there's any kind of trouble on that one, I think we're in the last chance saloon, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think the people who are breaking the rules need to look at the bigger picture. There's more than them. You know, that Scottish football needs to finish this season. There's still a lot at stake. There's a lot of people, you know, still watching their own team. So let's hope they listen to whatever's out there, and we can quieten it down a wee bit and just get this season out the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to everyone who's posted messages, and thank you for sharing the stream and following us on Facebook. Don't forget to share it with your pals and follow us there. And if you're on YouTube, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button and you'll get all our unique content. And of course, the Football Show is not the only source of information. We feed you on PLZ Soccer. If you go onto the website and Twitter at PLZ Soccer, you'll get all the latest video interviews from managers and players on the site, as well as the latest breaking news, not only Scottish, English, but European and world football too. So hopefully you can tune into that too. Thanks to Tam, to Darren, to Roughie, and from myself, Peter Martin. Thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.